Hello there, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Meg Mason. I'm the Marketing Director here at HydroPoint Data Systems. Welcome to our next installment in our educational series focusing on outsmarting the drought. We are aiming for this webinar to last anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes with a short question and answer section at the end. Should you need to jump off at any time, do not worry. We are recording this entire webinar and we'll be posting it on the website afterwards. Should you have any trouble at all, please type your issues into the chat section on the right-hand side, and we will respond to those. And also, please post any questions you may have in the Q&A section on the right-hand side, and we will address those at the end of the session. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ben Slick today. Chris Spain was unable to attend today, so we have the fabulous Ben Slick standing in. Ben Slick is our VP of Key Accounts and Business Development here at HydroPoint. He has 24 years of experience in the software network service industry. And Ben, how long have you been here at HydroPoint with us?
It's been 11 years now.
11 years. That's a whole 10 years after me. Congratulations, Ben. So I'm going to turn it over to you to go ahead and introduce our speaker and do a little background about what this webinar series is all about.
Thanks for the introduction, Meg, and thanks to everybody online who's taken a few minutes from their busy day to join us. It's great to see so many people online. The purpose of this series is straightforward. It's to provide an open forum for real-world proven solutions and to have a frank conversation about water conservation strategies as we face this current drought. To be very clear, this is not going to be an advertising platform for any vendor, including HydroPoint, but rather a candid review of what has worked, equally and important what has failed, presented by people in our industry who've been working on water conservation long before this current crisis. Obviously, there are many components to the drought that have been a long time coming, but the recent executive order on April 1st, an interesting calendar choice, has brought the crisis to the top of the news churn for at least a while water is a hot topic. We're pleased to welcome Kevin Tonoian. Kevin is the Administrative Services Manager and the City Clerk for the City of Santa Clarita. In his role, Kevin oversees the city's special districts operation, inclusive of 55 financially independent landscape maintenance districts, which encompass over 1,300 acres of landscape area. He also oversees the urban forestry operation, inclusive of 125,000 trees, 46 miles of landscaped medians, and an irrigation operation which utilizes more than 1 billion gallons of water annually, managed by approximately 630 smart controller devices. In addition, Kevin serves as a full-time city clerk, and he oversees the bi-monthly preparation of the Santa Clarita City Council agenda and is the city's election official. Kevin's tenure with the City of Santa Clarita encompasses 25 years, during which time he's held management-level positions in the city's finance, community development, public works, and city managers departments. Kevin is a 22-year resident of Santa Clarita, making his home, along with his wife Gloria and their 2 children. A graduate of UCLA, Kevin holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in public administration. So, with that, Kevin, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And tell us a little bit about your current role and what challenges are on your plate at the city.
Hey, thanks. And I certainly appreciate you and Meg in inviting us to spend a few minutes and talk about Santa Clarita and all the great things that we're doing up here. In terms of my role, I think you really gave a fantastic overview. Predominantly, my role is to oversee the city's special districts operations, and as you certainly indicated to the folks participating, that operation and our challenges have become quite more substantial in the last 3-4 years as this historic drought has continued to extend in our state. We're responsible really for making sure that the landscape amenities that the vast majority of our community value and financially contribute towards through various assessment districts is maintained in a manner where we balance beauty with also being good stewards of our water and those types of national resources.
Great. For listeners who may not be familiar with the term landscape maintenance district, what does that mean?
A landscape maintenance district is a specific geographical area where either through the entitlement process, a developer elected to create an assessment district where the property owners financially contribute to pay for landscape amenities that you may not otherwise see in certain cities or in certain communities. We have 55 of them. While some of those were created by developers prior to beginning to sell off the different subdivided parcels, quite a few of them have been proactively developed by residents, where they expressed an interest in having a higher level of landscape amenity to beautify their community. But in a sense, residents pay in for those beautification enhancements, and they pay based on their proportional benefits. So if you own a single-family home, you pay one type of rate. If you own a condo, you pay something a little less because your footprint is a little less. If you're a commercial type business on several parcels, you pay a little more.
All right, awesome. And I know you folks, I read it in the paper, have been busy annexing new land from the county of Los Angeles. Talk a little bit about the challenge of bringing in new land and how you manage that in the LMDs.
Well, we went through really three major annexations that all concluded in 2012. We brought in about another 20,000 residents into the community, annexing three substantial areas that were previously a part of the unincorporated county of Los Angeles. And from the landscape maintenance district perspective, we brought on another 12 financially independent zones which had been previously created and managed by the county of Los Angeles. So, those areas all had unique challenges. Some of them came over where financially they were very well managed. They had very strong financial resources, both for operational costs as well as reserves. Brought in other areas which were older, which were not set up in a way where they included a consumer price index type escalator. So we have some challenge areas where the financial resources aren't quite where we'd want them to be able to maintain those landscape amenities to the level that the remaining portion of our community would expect.
Right. So you're inheriting new land, you're inheriting new citizens, and aesthetic is a huge component of why people want to live and work in Santa Clarita. Tell me about some of the smart water management tools or practices or water efficiency things that you're doing in the city.
Well, probably the most significant thing that we did beginning in late 2009, early 2010 was the city's landscape maintenance operation made a decision to upgrade all of our existing controllers, and we went with smart controllers. And the city of Santa Clarita has been identified as the largest municipal deployment of smart controllers in the country, if not in the world. We initially deployed over a period of about 18 months, 550 smart controllers. With these annexations that were completed about 2.5 years ago, we are now working through installing an additional 80 smart controllers. We're about halfway done with those, and the smart controllers have really given us a great opportunity to get ahead of a lot of the constraints that municipalities are feeling now with the prolonged drought and the state's water prohibition declarations.
So you went through all that time and effort to do that, and the city spent a bunch of money to do that. Was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I'll tell you, before we switched over to smart controllers, because we have such a significant footprint in the community, and you mentioned at the onset, we maintain 46 miles of landscape medians. And the positive side of that is our community is really known for those type of amenities. And when people are in Santa Clarita, they know they're in Santa Clarita because they see those landscape medians throughout. The flip side of that is some of those medians, about 25% of them, were built in the 1970s and early 1980s prior to the city incorporating, and so they were built with high water use turf. They were built without some of the things that you see today, like safety strips and other devices that limit the amount of water runoff. And so what the city is known for in terms of beautification also became a challenge for us because during times of drought, people would see irrigation and runoff and perceive the city as being a water waster. And by moving over to smart controllers, I can tell you that we were able to change the complete dynamic of that discussion, especially with our water retailers and purveyors, where they look at us now as a model agency in terms of water efficiency.
So has anything changed for you since this April 1st proclamation and the executive order from our governor?
Yeah, absolutely. And I might add, by switching to smart controllers, the city was able to quantify over about a 3.5-year period between managing the smart controllers the way they were intended to be managed and also being able to use those to, in real time, remotely initiate water pauses due to rain or other type of inclement weather. We estimate that we reduced our total irrigation footprint by about 1.2 to 1.5 million gallons over about a 3.5-year period, and that's significant. In terms of going forward with the April 1st declaration, a lot has certainly changed for us. Even though we have already really exceeded what the state is looking for in terms of water efficiency, because we were early adopter, now we have to find ways to utilize smart practices, our controllers and what have you, to further reduce our water footprint. And in our case, it's about by another 5% because we were proactive last August when the voluntary water restrictions were announced by the state and began to ramp back our usage.
So you weren't necessarily penalized for being an early efficiency leader, but you still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. For folks who may be thinking about smart controllers as an option going forward, smart controllers, I say, will tell you, have significant value in terms of being able to very seamlessly get probably the vast majority of the way, if not all the way, towards achieving the water reduction numbers that the state are looking for just through the functionality of the smart controllers, which are really dialed in to do what you would think they do. They'll measure ET, they can dial into real-time weather, they can be programmed to understand what type of improvements are being irrigated, and they will run in a very efficient manner. For Santa Clarita now, we have to figure out, in some ways, how to be smarter than our smart controllers to get that additional efficiency.
So you're managing 46 miles of landscape, over 1,300 acres of irrigated area. What are your challenges with that? You're not doing that with city staff, right? You've got an outsourced relationship with one or more contractors?
Yes. We have 6 contractors who maintain contracts for all of our landscape maintenance districts, and we have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of staff out there that we outsource to manage that. So some of the challenges that we deal with is, one, managing those landscape contractors. They want to go in and they want to water. That's what they get paid for. They get paid for results. You have some that are very good in terms of letting the system do what's intended. You have others who will go in and look at changing programming or increasing water cycles because they're not totally comfortable with the technology. You have sometimes where they're being programmed incorrectly because the folks who are out there in the field have not been properly trained. We've had some instances where they've been turned off for an extended period of time during the summer, and during a drought when we've already reduced our water usage, the first natural inclination was, well, it's just drought related and cut backs on water. Then you realize, no, it's the contractors who aren't managing them correctly. One of the other challenges I would say is we have to manage smart controllers in a manner that they were not intended to be used, programming them to use less water. Reducing our usage to meet the 25% reduction mandate for our area by the state. We've started off by telling the controllers to water 30% less because they're going to water 25% less than what they think. And what the smart controllers probably want to put on there, 25% less doesn't meet what the state's looking for. So those are some of the operational challenges, but I'll tell you, we have a great relationship with WeatherTrack and with HydroPoint, and get a lot of support from them, and it's been a great partnership.
So what other challenges do you have with water in terms of the city? I mean, do you have winter versus summer issues? Do you have other strategies you're implementing for water use efficiency to continue to grind out savings as it relates to the mandate?
Oh, yeah. Even before the declaration by the state, the city had already begun working on getting a conceptual design contract awarded to have someone look at what the cost would be to remove roughly 410,000 square feet of remaining turf in our medians. We have about 8 miles of medians that include 4 miles of turf. One of the areas right off the bat that we are wanting to get done in the next couple of years is we're going to go out and retrofit those last 20-25% of our medians to take out the turf and incorporate our more water-efficient plant pallets. That's certainly one strategy. Another strategy is we have stopped for the time being reforestation efforts along our major thoroughfares. At our city facilities, we have removed all of the color from the landscape pallets, more mulch. In front of City Hall, we've let our turf die, and we're right now designing a different type of landscape pallet that will be more water efficient. We're doing the same at our corporation yard, at our transit maintenance facility. And then we have identified areas throughout our landscape maintenance districts where we have really more ornamental type turf, and we're going to start looking at areas where we can ramp back the water. Our residents will expect to see turf areas looking more stressed than they have been looking, and that's just a handful of things that we're going to be doing in the immediate near term and over the next few years to further reduce our irrigation footprint.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any difference in the way your relationship is with your water providers? You've got two water providers, I think, that you buy water from in different parts of the city, right?
We actually have three. We have Santa Clarita Water, Newhall County Water, and Valencia Water, plus Castaic Lake Water Agency. And we have participated as a member of the Drought committee that is managed by the water purveyors and retailers, now going on 7-8 years. We've been preparing for this drought since the end of the last drought, and we have a great relationship with them. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, in the last 6 years, we have really changed their perception of the city as from someone who was perceived as being inefficient with its water management to being a model organization. And a lot of that has to do with the investment we made in smart controllers. That has given us, really bought us a lot of goodwill with the water community, and it is something that we can point to when the community is calling us about water efficiency and using it as a flag to wave to show that we've been in this business before we were told to be needed to be in this business.
Yep. In many areas in Southern California, water agencies are contemplating a new billing arrangement where water budgets would be set, and then tiered rates would align themselves with the cost of providing service to different levels of efficiency or tiers. Do you see yourself impacted by any of that?
Probably not so much as other folks. I think, like other communities, the water retailers are trying to get their arms around water tiers. Again, we've been preparing for that for the last 6-7 years. So we're probably, in most instances, not nearly as impacted as other communities are. We're already running at real high efficiencies. So from water budgets, we're real comfortable that we're going to be able to live within those water budgets in terms of usage, and then in terms of those additional potential costs if you get into a higher tier. We don't see that as being as significant an issue, because we think we will tend to hover more in those lower tiers, and for the areas that may creep into a higher tier, we're also receiving the benefit of spending less on water because we're using less water.
Right. Well, are there any other recommendations or helpful tools that you'd recommend to listeners from other cities?
Yeah, absolutely. One is, if cities are contemplating smart controllers, smart controllers are just that. They're smart. And in a lot of ways, they're smarter than you are. The vendors are great. They will help you. They will get you into the system. In a lot of ways, they're turnkey, but by and large, folks need to have the mindset going in. They need to get trained. Get your contractors trained. I can't stress that enough. For all the efficiency that we've been able to achieve, historically, I think we look at those numbers and we know that those efficiencies could be even greater if we had our contractors better trained, as well as buying in 100%. And incrementally, we're getting them there. The drought has certainly given us the ability to get back and express those expectations in a stronger way. But the system is great. If you have contractors who are your partners out in the community that are managing those amenities, they need to be on board and they need to be trained and trained well.
Well, I, for one, want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day, and I would very much like to, take questions from the audience at this point, with Meg kind of shepherding that process. But just from me to you, Kevin, thank you so much for taking time, and we look forward to audience feedback on this.
You're very welcome.
Perfect. So one question that did come in is, does your city have any sort of services or apps or anything that help with water waste reporting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Going back to spring 2014, we spent several months with an internal drought team putting together information for the community that really tried to highlight, here are all the things that the city does to be good stewards of water use. Prior to that, doing campaigns for our landscape operations where we have little catchy slogans like, what do you call saving 1.5 million gallons a year? A good start. Going forward, we have a couple of campaigns and some technology that we have been using for several years now. One is we, like a lot of cities, have a constituent relationship management solution. We call it in Santa Clarita eService. That particular application not only can be accessed from our website, but we also have an iPhone and an Android app. And one of the options on that drop-down menu is to report leaks and water runoff. We also have done a significant campaign, bus stop shelters on our contractual refuse trucks on our city buses. And the slogan is "Leaks Happen," and it's got some graphics that have been designed in a very specific way, not to look like you have water spraying all over the place, but to give folks the impression that hey, if you see a leak somewhere, we want to know about it. Folks know that if there is a leak, there's a number they can call us. We respond. We've told the community that. Our expected turnaround time, if there's a leak that is something in the public right-of-way that's ours, is 1 to 2 hours.
That's great. That's definitely great. Well, that was, we're going to finish up now. We're just hitting the 30-minute mark. I did want to say thank you again to both Kevin and Ben for chatting with us this afternoon. Again, if you have any... if you'd like to watch this webinar again, feel free to go to our URL, hydropoint.com/drought-webinar, and this webinar will be posted up there in the next couple hours. And we have 2 more webinars set up for next week, same time, same place, Thursday at noon, and then also the following week. And thanks again for joining us today, and thanks Ben and Kevin, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.